Steve Frank, thanks so much for joining us for a quick conversation to share with folks two very important ways that they can get involved in fixing the problems facing California. One is becoming involved in the California Republican Party as a delegate, and then the second is getting on their county central committees. And there's a process for doing both and reasons for doing both, so I appreciate you taking the time to help get folks a little educated about some of the nuances on these processes.
Well, thank you very much, Don. I appreciate the opportunity.
So just in case somebody who's going to listen to this is not completely familiar, Steve, with your involvement and background, why don't you give us the 15-second snapshot of Steve Frank's 50-year involvement in California politics?
Well, I started walking precincts in 1960 for Nixon for president, and I've been involved in every level of politics since, from city council races and water board races all the way up to presidential races, working nationally. Plus, I publish the California Political News and Views, which is a blog that shows 10 different stories every day about issues that the media either ignores or will mislead. Plus, I'm involved nationally with a bloggers coalition.
Great. And is there a way for someone to sign up so that they can get, I know I get your articles in my inbox every day, so is there a way for folks if they want to get your news?
Sure. They can go to capoliticalreview.com and sign up for the California Political News and Views there. Very simple process.
Great. And I see once they get to that website, it's the menu item all the way on the right, California Political News and Views. And you'll see a whole bunch, if you just go to the website, you'll see a whole bunch of articles by Steve Frank.
10 every night.
And I can't believe you get all that stuff written out along with all the other activities you support us in. Why do we need the right people as delegates to the California Republican Party? What's going on with the California Republican Party that we need the right people to step up and be involved in that?
Right now, for the last 2 years, the state Republican Party literally has refused to go on radio, to go on TV, to talk about its issues, its platform. It has worked hard not to have too many so-called controversial positions on issues, and it has become a very quiet behind-the-scenes operation for a few people to operate rather than all the Republicans having a say. The California Republican Party is the official organization for the Republicans in the state of California. And under the law, it endorses candidates. And it endorses candidates mostly for legislative races. And it's very important to have that endorsement. And the way to get that endorsement is by having all of the county central committees in your district endorse you, and then the state party will endorse you. So there's a combination there. And second, the state Republican Party creates a platform once every 4 years. And in the fall of 2015, the state party will again have another platform, and it's going to be a very tight race in 2015 between conservatives and those who don't believe the Republican Party should stand for anything except election.
Interesting. Okay, so a delegate to the California Republican Party. What we're going to talk about now is the process for becoming a delegate. But before we get into the details of that, someone doesn't necessarily need to be knowledgeable, if you will, about politics in general. This is a position that the everyday person can get involved in and have a role in steering the affairs of the California Republican Party, isn't it?
That's correct. If you have a good foundation in constitutional government, if you have a belief in limited government, if you have a belief in lowered taxes and fuel regulations and smaller government, you don't have to know how to run campaigns. You don't know how to run a major organization. As long as you have the common sense values of a consistent conservative, you should be on the California Republican Party delegation.
So let's tell the folks exactly what the process is for getting on to the California Republican Party as a delegate. There's basically, from what I understand, three ways. The first way is the chairman of the county central committees has a certain number of nominations that they can make. The second way is for individuals that have become elected or even lost elections for a partisan office in California, like Assembly or Senate or Congress, or maybe others you can add to that, who's either won or lost, gets a certain number of appointments that they can make. And I said three ways. There's the three ways are actually people who've won, and the third way would be those who have lost. Is there any other way to get a nomination onto the Republican Party as a delegate?
There are volunteer organizations that also get a few appointments, and so that's another way of doing it. The chairman, the vice chairman, and the immediate past chairman, along with the national committeeman and committeewoman, also have appointments to give out.
So let's just say, for instance, we've got a couple of folks here in the Inland Empire that ran for office and lost. They have the ability to nominate, like, what is it, one or two or some small number of folks as delegates, correct?
Well, it's based on a formula. You get one delegate for having run. You get yourself appointed if you ran and lost. And then for every 5% of the registration, which means if Republican registration is 25 and you get 30% of the vote, you get another appointment. And if you get 35% of the vote, or the greater thereof, which means 32.6%, you get another appointment, and it goes up from there.
So down here in the Inland Empire area, we had Paul Chabot that ran and lost, so he would be an example. He was running for Congress, and so he'd be an example of someone who might have a couple of appointments that he can make. And then, of course, down in the South Inland Empire, we had someone run for state senate, a brand new Senate seat. He would have, appointments that he would be able to make as well.
Right. Somebody who's elected to the Assembly or State Senate, 8 appointments. Paul Chabot, if I remember right, got around 48% of the vote. So give or take, he'll have about 4 or 5 people he can appoint.
Wonderful. Now, the other critical piece about this, and the reason why we're talking about it, is that the calendar for getting this done is right around the corner. The convention that's coming up the last weekend of February, but all this has to be done prior to that. Should people be reaching out to these folks right now?
Right. This week, the week of December 15th, the state secretary is sending out the forms to all the people who make appointments. And they have till 10 days prior to the convention to submit those appointments. So that means between now and approximately the 17th of February, those appointments are going to be made for the February convention. And so this is the time, this is the week, this is the day that you need to call the candidates you work for a legislative office and ask them for an appointment. And make it clear that you work for the candidate, that you help them raise money, that you help them walk precincts, whatever you did to help the candidate. Now you'd like the candidate to help you with an appointment to the state party.
Wonderful. Okay, so that needs to be done ASAP. Well, good. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to the conversation about why it's important for folks that want to get involved to reach out to these elected officials and put their hat in delegate? Anything else to add to that conversation before we get segue over to the county central committee?
The reason that we wound up with Neil Kashkari, the Republican nominee, is because they had control of the state party and stopped the endorsement of Tim Donnelly. Tim Donnelly could have won that primary if the Republican Party had endorsed him. Tim was a state assemblyman involved in the party, and Neil Kashkari didn't even know how to spell California Republican Party until he was asked to run. And he's just not somebody that's been involved. And if we had had control of the state party, we could have endorsed Tim Donnelly, and that's just one example.
All right, well, thank you, Steve. So segueing over to the county central committees, what's the big deal with the central committee? What's the purpose and what do they do?
There are 58 county central committees, one for each county, and the responsibility of the central committee is to educate voters during the off year, to raise money, to create a database of voters and all the applicable background information on the voters, working with the state party, to be able to walk precincts and make calls on behalf of candidates. The county party also does the endorsement of candidates for Assembly, State, Senate, Congress. And if you want your candidate, a conservative, to get the endorsement, you have to make sure that your county is a conservative county so it doesn't endorse a moderate or a liberal.
So just to kind of quickly recap, the Central Committee is in charge during the election cycle of endorsing local candidates and then feeding endorsements up into the state party for statewide offices, correct?
Correct.
They also have the responsibility of registering voters, obviously registering them as Republicans during both the off-cycle year, which will be 2015 this coming year, as well as moving into the presidential cycle in 2016. And then as the election gets closer, they're also organizing to get out the vote activities to help elect Republicans in all races, from dog catcher, school board, city council, all the way up to state-level offices, as well as congressional offices that we're going to be voting on again.
That's correct. It takes a very strong precinct operation, and then people would start their precinct operations on Labor Day, 2 months before the election. A precinct operation is a year-round effort to get to know people, to get to know how they're going to vote, as well as to know which ones are going to vote. So it's important to start on the first of the year, 2015, with a precinct operation, and that precinct operation should be run by county party. If the Republican Party refuses to do it, and in most cases that is the case, then new membership on the county committee to change that committee, or to have an outside group create a precinct operation that when conservatives take back the county committee, they will be able to incorporate a real precinct operation into the Republican Party in that county.
Wow, those are a couple of really, really important points you just put out there. Okay, so now to the business of how do we get onto the central committees, and how do we get a position? I understand that it used to be a 2-year cycle, but now because of Proposition 14, it's a 4-year cycle. So the next opportunity to get elected to the Central Committee is 2016. So what's the process of becoming a member of your county Central Committee?
Well, there are 2 ways of becoming a member of the County Central Committee. The first is via election. And you're right, Don, the next election will be in June of 2016. And it's good for people who are going to run for County Central Committee starting the first of the year of 2015, going to County Central Committee meetings, learning what the process is, learning about how your local committee is run, learning Robert's Rules of Order, and getting a feel for the other members to know who could be counted on and who is just a politician on the committee. So you would run by your supervisorial district, except in the county of Los Angeles, where you run by assembly district. Every other county is by supervisorial district. And so you can run for it. But in the meantime, you will have people leaving the Central Committee because they don't show up for meetings, so they're automatically kicked off, because they've moved out of the supervisorial district or moved out of the county for a variety of reasons. Some people just get tired and resign from the committee. And so you can apply to be a member of your Central Committee even in 2015 if there is an opening in your supervisorial district. And that's why you need to be going to the meetings so people will know who you are, because in almost all the counties, the full committee votes to replace a vacancy in a supervisorial district.
So you don't have to be a member of a central committee in order to meetings, correct?
You have to be a registered Republican in the state of California to show up. That's all, the only requirements.
So someone that might be interested in becoming a member and running for that position can actually just start showing up to their central committees and getting to know the people and expressing their citizenship in that way, and just showing up and learning what goes on.
Right, and if you attend a central committee meeting in your county, you're able to volunteer to help on fundraising activities, on precinct activities, on their speakers bureau and things like that. You don't have to be a member. There's no committees in the state where you have to be a member of the committee to be on a committee, a subcommittee of the county central committee.
So now 2016 is rolling around and someone decides they want to run. We want to get a lot of people running. Is there a limit to the number of people that can run in a supervisory district?
No, there's no limit. And again, you have to be a registered Republican, and you have to have been a registered Republican for one full calendar year from the time that you filed. So if you file on the 15th of January, 2016, you would have had to have been a Republican at least since January 16th of 2015, one full calendar year. So you have to do that.
So now I want to run to become a member of the Central Committee. What do I have to do?
There is a registration period, approximately 30 days. It will be in early to mid-February of 2016, and you have to go to the Registrar of Voters office like a regular candidate. You have to file to be a candidate, be receiving petition forms, and in all counties, you need to have 20 registered Republicans from your supervisorial district to qualify you, good signatures, to qualify you to be a candidate. You don't have to open up an FPPC account. You don't have to open up a whole lot of the legal stuff that a candidate for Assembly or State Senate has to do. You do not have to file economic interest reports like candidates for Assembly or State Senate have to do either.
Well, that sounds pretty simple, actually. Actually have to file some paperwork so that you can get on the ballot, and then you can run around to your neighbors and say, hey, vote for me in the 2016 primary.
Allow me to suggest a better way of getting your signatures. Let's say you're running for position in the 5th Supervisorial District in San Bernardino, and there are 5 openings for that. I would have all 5 candidates have a petition signing party and have 30 to 35 people there, because you'll allow 40 signatures on these petitions, 20 of which have to be good. Make sure everyone is qualified to sign it, and then in one night you can have all your signatures. So
one registered Republican can sign on 5 different petitions.
Every county is somewhat different, and in some supervisorial districts, based on a formula, there's only 3 candidates. In other districts, there's 4. In other districts, there's 5. If your district has 5 candidates possible, then you could sign up to 5 petitions. If there's only 3 candidates possible, you can only sign 3 petitions.
Oh, okay. But I'm not limited to only signing 1. I can sign,
No.
As many people that are running for to be a member of the Central Committee as there are. I can sign all of those, as many there are.
Well, you could sign up to 5 petitions if there are 5 seats in that district.
Okay.
And you can
That's pretty straightforward.
sign only 3 if there's only 3 seats in that district.
Now, if there's 5, let's say in a particular supervisory district, there's 5 openings, more than 5 could run. You could have 10 people running, correct?
That's correct. You will probably in 2016 have lots of people running because the liberal wing of the Republican Party is already starting gathering candidates to run for central committees. who wipe out conservatives on all county central committees.
So it's important to start the process now, even in the beginning of 2015, of getting people interested in that role.
Right.
Anything else you'd like to add to the whole Central Committee conversation before we wrap?
The best way for anybody to be involved in politics is at the county level or at the state level. And being part of the county committee gives you a great deal of sway in the Republican Party in your county, and being part of the California Republican Party allows you to say in how the state party is run and at least have your voice heard.
Well, Steve, thank you for taking the time so that we can pass this information on to as many folks as possible. Once again, you are a contributor to the California Political Review website. It's californiapoliticalreview.com, and you contribute to a section of that website called the California Political News and Views. And if folks want to get your articles sent directly to their inbox, there's a place on that website where they can subscribe to it. You scroll down and put your email address in, and you're subscribed, and you'll start hearing from Steve Frank daily in your email box. Is that right?
And it is free.
Well, Steve, I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything you're doing to help the conservative cause in California. Thank you for taking the time here to get the word out on something that is really quite critical at this time. And we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Don.
Have a great day, Steve.
You too.